This is Channel 253.
On this episode of the Grit and Grain Podcast.
I've done all the brewery tours I need to for my life. You've done one, you've done them all, right?
Yeah. With maybe a few exceptions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My own brewery, is one of the exceptions.
Sure.
But I should say that it was the most choreographed brewery tour I had ever seen.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you.
Welcome to the Grit and Grain Podcast, where we explore and celebrate the craft beer industry, community, and history in Tacoma, Washington, and surrounding Pacific Northwest areas. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let's get to it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grit and Grain Podcast, coming to you guys from Peaks and Pints in Tacoma, Washington. So many claps for the fuck.
We all did it.
Goodness. Thank you guys for hanging out. My name is Matt McLaren. Not here with Ron Swarner today.
Hey, Matt McLaren.
Tired of that already today.
All right.
Not here with Ron Swarner. He and Phaedra are over in Yakima doing all kinds of cool stuff.
Having fun.
Doing weird things with hops.
I've seen the pictures.
I know. Picking hops and making beer. So it is me and Bethany.
Hi.
How's it going?
Great. How are you guys?
Very good. And Doug, how are you?
I'm as good as I've ever been.
That's great. One episode deep, that's all it takes. Thank you guys for hanging out, listening, and all that. If you haven't yet, please like and share and subscribe and do that whole thing. It does help us out a ton, and we're trying to get some more eyes and ears on the podcast, and that's a good, easy way to support what we do. Let's see. We have a great guest today, actually. And actually...
Don't oversell it.
No. This is our...
Oh, this is good.
It's a great guest, and it's the second time we've ever had somebody on 3 times, which is awesome.
Man, I should get a jacket or something like that.
Yeah, I'll have you and Abe can share one.
Have we done a third time when there are 2 people? No, that doesn't make sense. Never mind. Go ahead.
So our guest today...
Edit.
Yeah, right.
Make note. Edit out self.
is our buddy RJ from Sierra Nevada.
Yay!
Hey, guys.
What's up, dude?
How's everyone doing?
So good.
Wonderful.
Good as I've ever
Thanks
done.
for having me back.
Totally.
I love filling in any guest gaps need be. That I don't have a life, so I can just show up whenever.
RJ, you were so planned.
Yeah, right.
Come on, you don't get on this podcast 3 times by accident.
It's for being conveniently free, having an open calendar.
And having just got back from an awesome beer trip.
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm gonna brag to you about my trip, we might as well do it for the podcast, right?
Yeah, let's record it. Let's get it on record.
Yeah. I'm finally the jet lag is wearing off. I thought I was gonna get a glass for that. I'll drink it out of the can. Don't worry about it.
Good.
Drank any of mine
I
yet.
haven't had any of mine.
Oh.
Here
No,
you go.
don't worry about it. Oh my God, I was
you go.
just joking,
That's
guys.
Bethany's.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I spent the last 2 or so weeks in the Czech Republic and a little bit of time in Dresden, Germany.
Wow.
Just because it was pretty close. I'm a single guy. I got no kids. I don't really have a lot of responsibilities. And I always used to be really hard on myself about not taking advantage of doing stuff like that. So I was sitting at the Parkway having a beer with my friend Sean and had just mentioned that. And he goes, well, why don't we go? Mm. And I was like, well, I really want to go to the Czech Republic. And he's like, yeah. And it turns out all I need is just a willing travel buddy to go with. And we booked plane tickets 3 weeks later, and we booked our first 3 nights there, and then we're just going to play it by ear.
Sweet.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into. We flew into Prague, and Prague is just an incredible city. If you guys have been to some of those like kind of major European cities. Like Barcelona is one that I can compare it to, but that one's like on the ocean. But man, it's incredible just to see the amount of history and just the kind of big culture differences around there is interesting. Everybody spoke English for the most part, you know, but it's so cool just to encounter you know, culture like that, especially one that that really sort of de-emphasizes like the big deal that is drinking. Like everywhere we go to like this big park in the middle of the city and look, oh, there's a beer garden set up there.
That's awesome. Just permanently.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I mean,
so
there's usually like a couple of satellite bars. The city did something really interesting too. I was reading up on it while I was there. Is they do these reusable plastic cups. So instead of doing single serve plastic cups that just get tossed, they're kind of hardier plastic cups. And they'll usually have like a 50 crown deposit, which is, about half of one beer, maybe a little bit more than half of a beer. But it ensures that you're not going to have any broken glass anywhere if you're using like actual glassware. But you're not wasting as much plastic everywhere too.
Sure.
So like it was so cool just to see, like it was hot when I was there, and so we just like tried to get up as high up in the city as possible and get a beer and let the like cool down in the wind, and like no matter where you're drinking, you're seeing like these amazing views. So yeah, it was very incredible, and it was the same with Dresden too. Like Dresden had plenty of beer gardens, and just it was awesome. It was very cool.
Were the plastic cups like just for outdoor stuff, or was it like indoors and things?
It was mainly outdoor stuff. Indoors. I mean, I maybe had a beer indoors 3 times throughout the whole trip.
Damn.
I mean, it's all outside, and because it's the summer,
Sure.
all the cafes have their seating outside, and like no matter where you are, there's sidewalk seating for anybody that's coming along. It's very cool.
Do you find some good food pairings for these lovely beers you were having?
Man, the food, I didn't have a bad meal.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it was like 11 o'clock at night and I just needed like the most garlicky like donair that I have ever had, or just going to breakfast and getting like fancy ass avocado toast. I mean, everything was just so good.
Nice.
Yeah. I was telling Matt before we started recording, like trying not to get too down on being home, going like, man, everything here sucks.
We get back in America.
That happened. So is it regional cuisine or is it international cuisine, or what sort of things were you finding?
So most, there are, the regional cuisine was pretty prevalent, very classic Czech dishes, which are very sort of like meat and starch heavy.
Yeah.
But there is also a ton of pizzerias. There was a ton of other like cultural influences that came in, and very sort of like modern elevated American cuisine too, like burgers everywhere, which I was surprised about.
Sure.
Burgers are a thing.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
are.
but yeah, it was once in a lifetime trip.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you bring us here? This beer.
Actually, you didn't bring that. I got it.
Yeah.
Well, what are we drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were drinking
The fuck are we?
Zateki Svetlé Lezak, which Svetlé Lezak just means light lager in Czech. But I was reading the label, and it is from Poland,
Oh, damn it.
which is actually really
Almost.
interesting.
Let's dump it out.
Yeah.
So close.
So I'll get into going to Pilsen, which is where Pilsner originated from, because I have some fun history facts to share that I learned.
Sick.
But in Pilsen, there was the only like kind of modern craft beer bar that I encountered, in the sense that there are like 3 doors of cans. They had a rotating tap list. Very sort of like modern craft beer bar that all of us would be used to. And looking through the cooler, a majority of the craft beers, be them like pastry sours, hazy double IPAs, New Zealand pills, that sort of thing, a majority of them, I would say 90% of them, came from Poland.
Interesting.
And I have a thought on that. You shouldn't take it as gospel because I have not done any research or anything. But because Pilsner Urquell is so tied up into like the nation's beer identity, everybody who operates some sort of beer bar or serves beer is a tied house. And for people who don't know what that means, back after Prohibition, the federal government put in what's called the three-tier system that we know it. So it means that there's a separation between producers, wholesalers, and retailers, bars.
Yep.
But Europe and most of the countries in the world don't have tied house rules. And so what that means is that, hey, I'm Joe Schmo. I want to open up a little cafe, in this little neighborhood in Prague. Pilsner Urquell comes around and goes, well, hey, you give us a permanent tap handle. We're not only going to give you umbrellas and glassware and install the draft system for you and also come around and clean it for you. And we'll even print up your fucking sign for you. I mean, there are most of the cafes, especially in the touristy parts, it says Pilsner Urquell first before it even says the name of the bar, if at all.
Yeah.
So there's a cafe there because there's a Pilsner Urquell sign hanging outside of it. But you don't know the name of the place. You just know, hey, I can get Pilsner Urquell there.
Yep.
There are pros and cons with that. I mean, luckily, Pilsner Urquell, especially that close to the source, is fucking delicious.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. But yeah, so I think when it came to that, so it was called Kegsistence. I think so. Either Kegsistence or Kegsperience.
Okay.
I think Kegsistence.
Okay.
I sent you a picture of the menu.
Yes, you did.
There is no Pilsner Urquell or Pilsner Urquell related brands anywhere near that. But I think that precluded any other places, craft breweries, trying to gain a foothold in Pilsen, especially.
Sure.
Yeah.
That theory does make a ton of sense. They're huge. They have all of the resources to support that sort of thing. And if there's no laws, so in America, we've talked about this before, there's pay to play laws where you can't do that kind of stuff here. Those laws might not exist the same way in the Czech Republic or in different European countries. So big breweries can, give you a bunch of stuff that isn't just straight up money for your favor. And if you're somebody that has been producing the same traditional Czech Pilsner for hundreds of years, like Pilsner Urquell, beers that are far cries from that culture are probably going to be less prevalent in the country that makes that beer.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas Poland, there's no one producer that might have that kind of pull, and so the culture is much more it's much more apt to experiment with things that they get from other beer producing countries.
Right. That's not to say that I don't think Pilsner Urquell is trying to stomp out all competition. The day that we got there, we walked by the famous gates to the entrance of the brewery, kind of is based on the seal of the town. There's so much about the city of Pilsen that's tied up in Pilsner Urquell.
Yeah.
There's a reason that there's the name is that, right?
How big is the city of Pilsen?
It's not that big. Compared to Prague, I bet you Pilsen is an eighth of the size.
Damn.
It's much, much, much smaller than you would expect.
So is that like a Tacoma-sized town, or a little bit bigger than that, maybe?
I would actually say it's a little smaller than Tacoma.
A little smaller, okay.
Yeah, but I didn't look up exact numbers. Also in the summer, I mean, the population is such a huge influx of tourism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it definitely felt like a little bit more of a working class town.
Okay.
And so much of like all the tourist dollars are all tied up into the brewery
Yeah,
itself.
totally.
But so
World renowned.
yeah. So when we came through the gates, there was a big street fair going on. We didn't know this until we started exploring, but there was a international burger competition. So there were burger places from all over the country that like were then doing like displaying their burgers. So there, I bet you there was probably 24 different burger booths in addition to other food stuff. But then there was also another craft brewery that had their little, serving trailer there on the grounds of Pilsner Urquell. So, I mean, they're definitely not trying to stomp out the little guy, but it's definitely a much different atmosphere if you're doing your own craft brewing in Pilsen.
Totally.
But yeah, but the brewery itself is incredible. I mean, it is the size of bigger than the size of the Chico campus at Sierra Nevada.
Damn.
I would say. Yeah. And there was, and
Which is
because
famously large and beautiful.
yeah, exactly. Right. And so, there's so much history tied into it. I will say, being a jaded beer guy, and beard guy, same diff. Yeah, same diff. I've done all the brewery tours I need to for my life. You've done one, you've done them all, right?
Yeah. With maybe a few exceptions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My own brewery, is one of the exceptions.
Sure.
But I should say that it was the most choreographed brewery tour I had ever seen. So what they do is they take you into kind of the main visitors center. You get the view of like these chalices that were used for when kings and queens visited, and you get to see the signature from the king that authorized them to start brewing in the first place, and like lots of and then they take us into the brewing materials room. Like they have to cover, if you're seeing the tour, you need to know how beer is made, what it's made of, that sort of thing. And so we walk into this room and the guy is explaining malt, and there is a bunch of malt on the floor. There's a little 3D guy, a mannequin. That's what I meant.
I was like, virtual?
Yeah, no. You know how we're like all in 3D, guys?
What?
Whoa.
Is he like an animatronic?
Yeah,
Was he moving?
no. If it was moving, it would have been way creepier than it already was. But
Mannequin.
so
Okay.
then you get to see as he's pointing to the malted barley on the floor. Like a projection on the wall behind it shows the barley fields, and it shows people working those fields, and then it shows that. And then he goes, and then once all the barley is harvested, we move it into our hoppers, and there's a cone hanging from the ceiling that has these clear panels, and all of a sudden it lights up, and there's animation of barley like going down into it.
Geez.
It was very Disney-esque,
Yeah.
and I will tell you what, the guide had this like act down. There was no delay in his timing. He would point at something and it would light up. And it was so cool. And then they take you into like this room for what the water was, and because they dig their own wells there, their well goes like 100 meters down, like a crazy amount. And it's really hard limestone in that whole area there, so it's perfect for having the right minerality for brewing Pilsner.
Really?
It's
super hard water for that.
It's very hard water. And it kind of emphasizes that really kind of sharp bitterness that you get from the Czech Pils, especially since the only hops either allowed to be used or allowed to be grown in the country are Czech Saaz hops. So those are the only things that they use for it. Anyway, really impressed with the choreography of this tour.
Sure.
We got to see the old brew house with all the mash tuns and everything, and it is billions of dollars worth of copper. And then you go into the new brew house, and it's even more copper than that. So much copper. It is beautiful. If you guys have been to Chico, you know, Ken Grossman got his copper kettles imported from Germany, and we have 3 of them, I think, in Chico. Pilsner Urquell has like 10 times as many.
Can I ask another dumb guy question? Does the copper change have any effect on the taste of the beer as opposed to a stainless steel?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. You know,
It's copper. You can
kind of taste it, but it's not. It doesn't have quite as much of an effect after it's been used for quite some time.
Okay.
But they did make it.
Yeah,
they did make a point that the kettles needed to be copper. They do have some jacketed and stainless steel ones for certain. Mainly, I think they said it was for export stuff. So like the export lager is a little different in that way.
All right.
So the whole time we were there, this is actually just about the travel in general. Me and my friend Sean were looking at the forecast, and we're like, we nailed the shoulder season, man. It is going to be like 75 degrees. Sick. It's going to be perfect. So we knew we were going to get outdoors. We're going to do a little hiking, kind of that. So we packed, you know, hiking shoes. I packed a couple of hiking pants, you know, what I call my adventure pants. And yeah,
too. They're not for
you know, and I got a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
a little bit of everything. So we touched down in Prague. It is 90 degrees and 95% humidity, which it continued to be for almost the entire time we were there. Sean brought 1 pair of shorts. And he wore those every day.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Because it was so
shorts.
hot.
Can't buy shorts in Czech Republic.
I think he was happy with his shorts.
He didn't
I don't think.
Only from Pilsner Urquell.
I would have just bought.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
shorts.
yeah, but he was fine with it, and, you know,
It's all.
it's fine.
2.5 weeks.
We found a laundromat. It's cool.
A pair of scissors would work too.
But the reason I bring this up is because after we go through all the material stuff, we went down into the cellars. These cellars are not in use for production, but it used to be their lagering cellars. Before modern technology allowed you to lager things, they basically had this giant bricked-in ice cavern where they would have ice trucked in, they would drop it in from the ceiling, and they would combine it all together, and that huge chunk of ice would keep for the entire summer. It was like 60 degrees, maybe even less than 60 degrees in the cellar, like, you know, upper 50s. And I look over at Sean, and Sean goes, oh, he shivers. And he goes, oh my God, I forgot what it was like to shiver.
To be cold.
He's like, I just want to live down here forever. But
That's like napping temperature.
yeah,
for
but
me.
the beautiful thing about that is, you know, they still have some barrels left down there just to kind of show people a sense of scale and what it looked like. Brewing back in the day.
Sure.
But they also will do small amounts of batches specifically for the tour. So you walk down one of these cellar hallways. There is one of those like catering trays of clean glassware. You grab one of their glasses, branded, of course. And there is a crotchety old man who just has opened up the faucet on a barrel and is just filling glasses. So, and then they take us into one of this like anterior room where there's barrels set up as tables.
Sure.
And we sit there and we enjoy our open fermented, oak conditioned, unfiltered Pilsner Urquell. And other than in October, that is the only time and place in the entire world that you can get that beer.
Damn.
And it was
Well done.
incredible.
And you're in a 60-degree room.
Yeah.
I just
Away
wanted to
from
live
the
down
heat.
there. There
That's
was
so
some
cool.
dark hallways, and I was like, dude, if we break off from
They'll never find us.
they'll never find us. We can live down here. We've always wanted to be Ninja Turtles and live in the sewers, so let's do it. I call dibs on Raphael because I have the tude. No, yeah, it was incredible. The other thing that I learned, these are just some separate facts, is that Pilsner Urquell started as a municipal brewery. So anybody who lived within the town walls were granted what's called a brewing right. So you could brew your own home brew. And there were some breweries that could sell that. There was the sort of like the event that sort of like caused everybody to like cooperate was there were about 7 barrels that was supposed to go to the townspeople and served at the local pub and everything, and it was deemed unfit for human consumption. So there was a big to-do where they took the 7 barrels of beer and dumped them. And so not only was it like a blow, we're like, oh no, what are we going to do for beer? But also it was like kind of a blow to their pride.
Economy and their pride.
In their pride.
Sure.
And so there was 250 families within the walls who all got together and basically created a brewing co-op. And then they go, well, maybe we should get some outside help. So they brought in a Bavarian brewer to come show them how to create what became the Pilsner recipe.
Whoa.
So the king initially decreed the municipal situation.
The king basically decreed that the people within the walls had the rights to brew their own beer.
Okay.
Right.
Just like, Carter signed the homebrew thing. Like,
well, that existed for bread too. Like if you could make dough and there would be one big central oven, the whole town would come and bring probably the same idea.
Okay.
And beer was much more about sustainability, rather than just like fucking around at the bar.
Yeah. But this is the ultra nerdy thing that I think you'll appreciate. It never really occurred to me that Pilsner Urquell is not a Czech word. Svetli Lezak
is the Czech.
Lezak is the word for Pilsner in Czech. So Pilsner Urquell is actually the German word for it. That's what they called it. And it never occurred to me, if people are familiar with imported German beers, you'll see like that prefix on styles like or pills. For example, the smoke beer, the Auchschalenka or Marzen or something like that.
Yes.
Or is a prefix which means original. So that's what the in Urquell is.
Oh, that's funny.
Is the German. I never made that connection before.
Yeah.
I got looks all the time when I was like in town in Prague or in Pilsen ordering 2 Pilsners. I go, dva is 2 pills. And I was basically just saying a Czech word for 2 and a German word for beer.
Yeah.
And so I just see someone giggle and just go, these fucking Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get them
Good
their
try. Good try.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah.
I get a little pat on the head.
Here's your beer.
Go take your Dva pills over there and don't talk to any of the real regulars.
Yeah.
Well, it is called that, though. I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, I still haven't figured out how locals order it. I just finally just started just embracing it and just going 2. I'm like not even gonna try because I gave up.
You're like, this many.
Yeah, exactly. Put this
Whatever
many
you want
in a
for.
glass.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll pay you. I'll even tip. We'll tip like we're Americans too, and I'll leave you alone otherwise.
Yeah.
And they're like, here you go away.
Oh my gosh. Well, now I want another Pilsner.
Oh yeah, I haven't even tried this one yet.
I know. I'm so sorry
Oh no.
that I didn't get you a glass or save you any. But we're going to take a super quick break, grab another beer. We'll be right back. So hang out.
Hello. This is Eric Hanberg of Channel 253 here with sound producer Doug.
Hi.
Hi, we are here to tell you about membership to Channel 253, and we're talking really fast because we know you want to get back to the podcast.
That's exactly right. You get to be on the members Slack channel, which is really banging, and you get to listen to the members-only podcast Off the Record, hosted by me.
That's right. It's just $4 a month or $40 a year. Channel253.com/membership. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll consider joining. Please check it out.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging out during the break. As always, a quick shout out to
Thanks.
Doug. You're welcome, Doug. Our wonderful producer. And to Chris for putting us on video. Yay!
There's a video component now.
There is, I know.
You can't see him, but he's right over there.
And yeah, do check out Channel 253. They're fantastic. Happy to be a part of that wonderful local podcast network. I have new beer in front of me, but it's not new beer. It's old beer. It's
Except that it's new and fresh.
I guess
beer.
it is new. Yeah,
It's new, old.
It's old new. I know, not a Czech beer, but that's all right.
Tetnang fresh hop.
Yeah,
Kolsch.
which is delicious.
So good. Yeah, it's really drinkable.
I love.
What are you drinking, RJ?
Oh, I started with the Fort George and Stoop half liter.
Fest?
It is their Fest beer.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I'm in Fest beer season now. I feel like I've kind of like lost some time when I was gone because I was only it was kind of focused on one style when I was there.
Sure.
But yeah, it's fantastic, and I really love. I love all of the lagers that Stoop does. I'm actually, speaking of fresh hopped beers, I am always the most excited for Stoop's fresh hop Italian pills.
Oh sure.
Nobody makes that like they do.
Yep.
And it's so good. And I feel like, hopefully, I'm not speaking out of school, but I feel like last year they did a couple different single fresh hop releases of that Italian pills. Oh, the one that has it's got the Misfits
Yes. Yeah.
thing on it,
They
right?
did.
Okay.
They did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I know they do an IPA like that.
Yeah, I think
Fresh hops, they do
there's
the
two
pills,
versions
too.
of it. They're like the silver can is the pills, if I remember correctly.
Where's Ron when we need him?
Yeah, exactly.
Poor
Man, yeah, I used to be so on top of this and could just rattle off the, IBUs and ABV of all of that. Now I'm just like, I feel like I've seen it once.
Yeah. It's all dust now.
But I do really appreciate the breweries are kind of embracing what the fresh hop brings to a beer besides an IPA.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more out there that, they're like a fresh hop can have a really cool effect on something like a Kolsch or something that isn't necessarily the like hop forward,
Totally. We got a fresh hop amber from Level this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's reasons why this should work really well.
Yeah, I know that Silver City did a wet hop ESB that I really enjoyed. I mean, it's really tough to get anybody to buy an ESB during fresh hop season in general or outside of fresh hop season. But yeah, I like those swings that breweries take.
Totally.
Yeah.
Did you try any of the Polish craft beers?
I did, yeah.
Did you have an impression? Did you get any impression from them?
They do a very good job of kind of bringing a lot of those new school hop flavors to the forefront. I felt like the back end of it was maybe a little dull. It didn't finish as clean and crisp. But I think some of that might have to do with late hopping with hard water.
Sure.
I don't know enough about water chemistry.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much the Polish pay attention to kind of adapting their water to that style.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of brewers don't necessarily think about that, especially being in the Pacific Northwest. Our water is made.
It's awesome.
It's perfect for making
So
IPAs.
soft, yeah.
Whereas you could, for example, like Zeugel House or it'll come to me. They're out of McMinnville. They do a lot of German style lagers. I need to beat my head against a wall.
German stuff.
Yeah.
Heater Allen.
Heater Allen,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Jeez. Outside of those, I bet you could talk to the brewers there and they will go really deep into how they treat their brewing water
For sure.
for those styles. But not all brewers pay attention to that as much.
Yeah, it'll make a big difference on something like a haze. If somebody's trying to like recreate like a double hazy IPA, which you mentioned was like one of the Polish craft beers that was on there, and it's like, your chloride and sulfate ratio in particular are probably like opposite of what you might have for like a typical European IPA, and so that makes sense that it like wouldn't translate the same.
Yeah. Also, to maybe kind of expand on what you were asking about, Doug, there was a beer. At this craft beer bar, they had a bunch of empty cans kind of decorating the place. And so I pulled one that I thought was really interesting because I saw a U.S. flag on it. And it's from Nepo Brewing. And it's literally called 100% T90 pellets. And it says, meet our friends from Yakima Chief Hops.
All right.
Which is, one of, any brewer around here knows Yakima Chief really well. It's a double hazy IPA. Also, what I found really interesting is a lot of the Polish and the Czech beers still will use the Play-Doh system in addition to the ABV. So if you look on this, it says it's 7.1% OBJ. I'm assuming ABV, and then it is 18 Play-Doh in like the Belgian. Mm-hmm. So the you might be able to speak on this better than I can. It's a specific gravity, or is it original gravity?
So you can measure it both ways. There's like it's both. You can
it's
use
the
Play-Doh for
difference
both.
between the two is like where the alcohol gets measured.
Like what you're talking about is like the proportion of dissolved sugars basically in the liquid. And so you like typically it doesn't make a difference if you don't know the ABV, but if you know the ABV and you know the Play-Doh, you can generally get an idea of how sweet or dry the beer is going to be if that's like in your vernacular, which like when you're ordering a beer in the Czech Republic, they have specific words for specific gravities of beer and they have specific words for specific like colors of beer. So light, kind of medium, amber, and then dark. And then each one of those will have certain expressions at different Play-Dohs. So you can get a light beer that's on the dry side. You can get a light beer that's on like the like rich kind of like sweetie mouthfeel side for every style. And so that's why Play-Doh is listed.
Yeah, so the Play-Doh is listed for all of the beers that they had, both in package and on draft.
Right.
Which I thought was really interesting. I know at one point it was used for taxation purposes. I don't know if that's still the case, though.
I mean, probably not, but
yeah.
I
can tell you what, man, I wanted to find like a wholesaler or like, a beer rep in like Pilsen or in Prague and just bend their ear about how much different their job is than ours.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because like, I'm like, I want to know who the like brand rep is for Pilsner Urquell. Like, how do they have like just a certain number of accounts? Like, how easy is it? Do you have to open new accounts? Because like everybody already has your beer. So
should I move here?
Yeah, exactly. I will tell you what, Bethany. I was sitting in the airport, obviously at the Pilsner Urquell restaurant in the airport, and I pulled up job listings. I was like, what does this look like? They had one listing. It was for like a part-time HR specialist. And I was like, nah, I don't think that's for me.
Yeah.
Check back later.
Call.
Yeah, but I tell you what, like, don't tell my current employer. But if Pilsner Urquell comes knocking, maybe I'm just gonna go move to Prague. Who knows?
I mean,
They'd understand.
yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of all the breweries.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Also, like, if you're going to work for the only place you can go after working for one of the most legendary craft brewers in America is just one of the most legendary breweries on the planet.
Yeah, right.
So like, it's still, I don't think anybody would give you a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could probably do the tours too. Actually, I'd be so bad at the tours.
Why?
Because I get derailed, and I'd like to want to talk where people are coming from, and like I tried to talk to. I'm not proud of this, but I tried to talk to they took us up on the manway that goes over the canning and bottling lines.
Yeah.
Incredible, obviously. And so you have to you can walk one way, you get to the end and turn around and come back. So you're looking at the same thing, just going one way. Mm-hmm. So he posts up outside of that manway. I got hot in there because I'm the worst with heat. Mm-hmm. So I post up next to him. I was like, that's pretty impressive. I'm like, I work for a brewery and we just opened up a pretty impressive co-pack facility. And like, I know, like, I have some grasp on what goes into it and getting things dialed, especially on those like really fast lines.
Totally. He
did not follow up asking me what brewery I worked for. I really wanted to have this conversation and brag a little bit. But I could tell in his head he was counting down the seconds.
Totally. You were heckling him.
Exactly.
You were a heckler.
I fucked up his count.
Yeah. He's like,
And so he's like, yeah. And he had a little clicker. So everybody that entered the manway, he would click, make sure the head count was the same.
Yep.
And so he had so much more going on that fucking doofus over here going, I work for a brewery too. He's like, I don't fucking care. I got to get through this tour.
I'm on stage right now.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
asshole.
I got a dozen of these fucking tours to do every day.
I'm sure you could go to the powers that be and suggest how you'd like to do it, and they'd be open to a fresh new way.
Yeah. I don't think my input is necessarily the first one that they'd listen to.
Maybe not.
To their credit.
Yeah, you're like,
They have a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, hey, I got some suggestions. And they're like, no, we got it. It's fine. Go have
have you
another
been doing
beer.
this for over 100 years?
Yeah,
No?
exactly,
Then shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Point at it. It'll work.
Yeah. And just like every good brewery tour, it did exit through the gift shop.
Of course.
Oh my God, it was.
This sounds more and more like Phaedra's Guinness tour the longer this story goes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's a ton of
Have you done
similarities.
you haven't done the Guinness tour?
No. It's on my list of places to go.
Yeah,
But
it sounds like the same.
Big Disneyland
machine.
kind of production. Yeah. Like it's,
the production value on it is incredible.
Totally.
But the best part about it was that crotchety old guy just pouring me some unfiltered Pilsner Urquell, man.
That's like
Oh
a
my
love
God.
letter to the nerds that come and do that, I'm sure. Because there's, there's probably parts of it that is just like no different than touring Ben and Jerry's. But like it's a cool thing. And like we all consume beer and we all consume ice cream. And so like, let's go see how it's made. But then like the fact that there's a portion of it that's like you fucking nerds are going to tell people at the bar about this when you get back home.
Yeah.
That's the old guy in the cellar. doing
Yeah. That's
a little
that's
bit
service.
of humanity.
So yeah,
That's
exactly.
the service for like the beer nerds like me.
Yep.
Because it's like, they even had this setup with a bunch of like little microscope things so you could see the actual yeast. and like everybody was crowding around it looking at it. I'm like, I know what fucking yeast looks
Yeah,
like.
I've seen yeast before.
I know what yeast looks
It
like.
was just
Whatever.
a kids'
You need
museum.
sacrifices.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Okay, how many Lucre faucets did you see?
All of them. Every single
Every,
bar.
like, Pilsner
every single
Urquell.
bar, and every bartender knew exactly like
How to use them.
how to
The
use
pours.
them. Yeah, so like the
Mliko.
Mliko pour. I got one of them.
What are your thoughts?
It's great. Yeah, it's exactly what you want. In this,
wanna explain what
in
it
this
is?
nice nice guy. I will explain what it is, but this nice guy sitting at table apart from us, he was like, it's smaller beer. And I was like, no, it's still the same. It's like still Pilsner Urquell. And he's like, yeah, but you get small. Like he realized that it was like he thought it was a tourist trap.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, you realize you're getting less beer. Why
Yeah.
would you do that?
He's probably heard so many American people complain about like,
Oh yeah. It's like, what is this? It's all foam. So the Mliko pour essentially is, so the Lucre faucet, if nobody's seen what it essentially is what's also called a side pull. And it has, and you would know this, Bethany, there's a dispersion screen at the tip of it.
plate, yep.
Yeah, a restrictor plate. And so basically the Mliko pour is a way to kind of like half open it. I've never done it before. If I tried it, I'm sure I would fail on the first try and a dozen subsequent tries after that. But they kind of just barely open it, and what it creates is these really, really, really small bubbles, not dissimilar to nitro out of a can.
So it's an aerator, sort of, is it?
Yeah.
it's a
Sort of does that,
Yeah.
yeah. And what you get is just a really dense, almost kind of like milky nitro sort of head to it.
like cappuccino foam.
Yeah, exactly. And
okay.
if you let it sit long enough, you will end up with just a glass of beer.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you kind of get that really smooth texture.
Yeah.
Some people will complain.
Like a
They'll-
Guinness head? I mean,
Sort of.
But it's like a whole
But it's
glass of
most of the glass.
Yeah.
It's like a whole
it's
glass
most
of
of the
foam.
glass.
And it's CO2. It's not, so Guinness is nitrogenated.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the idea is the same as you're forcing beer through a restrictor plate, which you do have on a nitro handle. So it does break out a lot of the CO2. With a Lucre faucet, it's a ball valve and then a barrel on the inside. And when you just open it partially, anybody who's if you're a server or a beer tender and you've just partially opened a tap, thinking that like I'm just gonna pour a little bit of beer, it shoots fucking beer out because you're still infusing a
So
shitload
it takes
of
a real
nitrogen.
touch to get it.
Yeah.
to-
It does.
It
So you
definitely takes practice.
infuse a ton of nitrogen, force it through the restrictor plate, still breaks out all the gas, but what's left over are these tiny little bubbles. So it's not nitrogenated, it's carbonated, but you forced out a ton of the gas, and so you're left with this like thick, sort of like very like sustainable glass of foam.
Yeah,
actually, that's drinkable.
People claim it like it makes you less burpy.
Which
it's
seems
like
counterintuitive.
smoother.
I know.
It does, but it's like there's less of it in suspension, I
Right,
guess.
there's less CO2 in there. There's less CO2.
Did you
That makes
see
sense.
locals drinking those?
No.
The Malikos?
The
No.
one that I poured was I asked to have poured for me, was the only one I saw during the whole trip.
Really?
Yeah.
So if people were ordering Pilsner Urquell, they weren't getting these like Schnitz, Malikos. They were just getting a regular.
It was a regular.
pint,
It was
like
a
you
regular
would see.
pour with the appropriate amount
What?
of
Three
appropriate
fingers.
amount of head, which is 3 fingers.
That's right.
That's interesting. I mean,
Did
I
you
thought,
think more people would want that?
I mean, that's why they're so popular here, so people can like recreate these 3 different types of pours.
Yeah.
And people in Pilsen don't even drink them like that.
I've heard a lot of folks say like who have visited or like even just videos from like some of the craft beer guys who travel.
Yeah.
Like it's the last drink of the night for a lot of folks is like a round of Malikos. Like that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
But like I think after a while, after like the romance of that idea comes out, if you're not doing a schnit, which is like for anybody listening, it's kind of just like a shorty pour. It's like what you would put in a schooner, but you still put it in a big mug.
Yeah.
You're still just getting less beer. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the people who
Yeah.
actually live there are like, why would I get a glass of less beer?
Yeah, they do charge less for it too. I will say that like the most expensive pour of Pilsner Urquell I got was like 75 crowns, which is less than $4.
Awesome.
So most of the time, especially if we were drinking in the courtyard of Pilsner Urquell, it's like 63 crowns. So you're paying $3.40 or $3.20 or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. And then, like, for example, like the Maliko was like 50 crowns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, it wasn't, you're saving yourself, maybe 15 crowns, something like that.
Were other beers poured on the Lucre faucet?
There were, I mean, at Kegzistence, yes. They had 4 Lucres, I think. So there are other Pilsners that other craft breweries made that were still poured on there. It is the default, though. Which also might kind of like lend itself to like being a Pilsner Urquell house, because how much is a Lucre faucet?
$379.
Almost $400 for one faucet.
Yeah.
That's
Without
from
shipping.
Lucre.
Yeah.
So Lucre, for anybody who's not familiar, side pull faucets or like side draw faucets, as some people call them. There are a few out there, but Lucre is like the main manufacturer of this thing, and like to my knowledge, they make theirs a little bit different.
The Kleenex
Well,
of.
And
It's the Kleenex
All right.
or the Q-tip or
you
the
can get a
yeah.
side pull faucet that's definitely doesn't do the same pours as a Lucre faucet does.
That's
Yeah.
true
It's
too.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big expense, if you're like, but if Pilsner Urquell is going to like foot the bill to build out your entire draft system, including like hardware for 3 or 4 taps.
Totally.
Which is for most bars, like I rarely saw more places with more than 3 taps.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
One light, one medium, one dark.
I like that.
If-
I like
yeah,
it.
if that.
And as
Yeah.
a draft line
She's like, I can
cleaner,
clean
I
those
love it
lines
even more.
so fast.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
I
I'll
could
be in
shove
and out
all
there
3 at
20
one
minutes.
time. Yep.
and your beer's not gonna go bad. It's not gonna age because
Yep.
you have too many handles on.
Yeah.
Your kegs aren't going bad. You're flipping through fresh beer all the time.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't look at the dates on the kegs and stuff like that, but I would be so shocked if I drank a beer that was older than 2 weeks.
There's no
there's no fucking way.
Not specifically in the Czech Republic, which I do believe still holds the record of the highest beer consumption per capita in the world.
I'd like to think I helped with that.
That's good.
I was on vacation. I don't care if it's 10. Yeah. Another pills.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Pills, please. Proceed.
Wait, where am
Proceed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Did you have any fuck up stories while you were over there? Besides ordering Dvat pills.
Yeah, I mean, like the language barrier is definitely something, especially since I went to Germany halfway through the trip.
Right.
And so my German is slightly better than my Czech, which is not saying much. But I can ask if somebody speaks English in German. Okay. And I can't do that in the Czech. I don't know even how to pronounce it. But going back, instead of like thanking them in Czech, I would thank them in German.
Oh no!
But I think they'd be used to that, especially since
sure.
they're so close together, right? Yeah. But I started saying Danke instead of proceed. Oh shit! I forgot the word for thank you. Oh, it's Děkuji.
Okay.
Or Jacuzzi. Oh man, I'm sure there's speakers who they'll hear me say it just like, oh fucking hell, dude. How long was he there
Trevor's
for?
gonna text me.
No. So there weren't any specific fuck up stories per se, other than just being ignorant Americans, and that's I go about my entire life being an ignorant American, so I'm used to it by now.
We're born into that fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
300 and some million people do that.
Yeah, exactly. Getting to learn the public transit system was interesting, especially since the geography of the city in Prague. The river kind of S curves through it.
Oh, weird.
So I forget which way I'm going if I'm on a specific tram or something like that. So like Google is a godsend. Just going like, go to this stop. This is when the next one's going to come.
Sweet.
But, I got a little bit too confident, and I'm telling my travel companion, I was like, no, we just got to get on the 13. We'll jump on there. And so we jump on, and we're kind of heading to our next destination. And we go across a bridge, and he goes, I don't think we're supposed to be going across a bridge. And I pull up Google, and Google updates where my location is. And I'm like, yeah, we're moving away.
No.
But that's the minorest of offenses. You get off and just get on going the other way.
International travel.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah, it is what it is.
I've done that in LA by accident.
I was gonna say I've done New York.
Yeah. So I don't have any specific to the trip fuck up stories. Yeah. I'll make some mistakes, so the next time you guys have me on, I'll have a good fuck up story for you.
That's fair. When you're on number 4.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
I expect a sash at least next time, Doug.
Perfect. Yeah. Gold jackets on
best I can do
5.
is a t-shirt.
That's not bad.
I know, it's pretty good. I was trying to think if I had any too, and I don't. But it is fresh hop season, so I am within a month of fucking up something pretty badly, I'm sure. I was talking to Jeff Lee, who, like, if you have gone back and listened to old episodes, Jeff's been on a couple of times, but he has since moved to New York actually, and is now working at an AB distributor over there. And he said one of the things he was most thankful of is not having to deal with fresh hop season while he's over there.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the drink, us as drinkers, we should be very excited that we get to have all these really unique beers close to the source, all of that. Having worked on the wholesale side, and everybody wanting everything, and there's never enough to go around. It is a finite resource. If you own a bar, be nice to your wholesalers this season.
Be gentle.
Yeah, just know that they don't want to tell you no, but they're going to have to tell you no every now and again. And go, don't have that one anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got 25 cases less than we said we were going to get.
Yeah,
Mesa we were going to get.
So, just have some grace. You get what you get, and don't get upset.
Exactly. That's also going on.
Be nice and you might get more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That is normally how that works. RJ, thanks a ton, man.
Thank you for
I'm so
having me.
jealous of your fucking trip, dude.
No,
that's awesome.
I
Oh my gosh.
love seeing your guys' faces. I missed you.
We missed you
So,
too.
yeah.
Glad you
Thanks for
came.
having me back.
Glad you decided to come home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It was a coin toss.
I will tell you what, man, the 14-hour
understand.
travel day,
Yeah. Oh,
I'm just like, I was dreading it, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, maybe I just live here now. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to do it again.
just be in
live here.
perpetual 59 degrees in the cellar there.
Here's what I'll tell you. The day we left, it was 75 degrees and sunny.
Rude.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Fucking rude.
Sucked.
You're like,
Send off.
this garbage country. So mad leaving. All right. Ron is not here, so there's no outro.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. However,
We miss our
please
friend.
do follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. Subscribe to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio.
I was thinking about
Apple Music.
Tacoma. Is there any bad time to visit Tacoma?
There is no bad time to visit Tacoma.
I didn't think
There's
so.
no such thing as too much barley wine.
Alter your expectations.
Also,
About
alter
this
your
podcast.
expectations. And yeah, tune in next Friday for more sweet chatter. Cheers.
Thanks, RJ.
Thanks, RJ.
Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us at Grit and Grain Podcast wherever you get your social media and catch new episodes every Friday. Cheers.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you.